everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be talking to you today about the total solar eclipse that's coming up in Sagittarius on the 14th of December. Now, there's so much to say in this about the second half of December. I'm going to do another video in a few days' time on the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius that's coming up on the 21st of December, but there's just too much to put in one video. So here I'm going to be more focused on this total solar eclipse. And it really does feel as if we're entering the shift of the ages, because we are. It's just immense, I think, what we're stepping into. We're still in this narrowest part of the birth canal at the moment. That's going to change. The energy is going to shift significantly as we get into this second half of December. But we've had incredible intensity this year. I mean, the intensity really began way back in January the 12th. We had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, and that really set the tone for the year because, as I've often mentioned, these hard aspects between Saturn and Pluto are related to hard times, austerity, much greater control, rules and regulations, constraints, and also a historical theme of abuse of power. So we didn't know the reason, we didn't know why those energies were going to come into force, but we knew that that's what we were going to be feeling in 2020. It was going to be a very hard, concentrated, intense year, which indeed it has been. Very, very hard for many, many people. That was accelerated further through the last few months when we've had Mars in Aries together with Eris, the female awakener in Aries, running in these squares to the Capricorn planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. So the themes of individual freedom, independence, autonomy, demanding those, running up in this kind of clash because it's a square to top-down governmental authority, rules, regulations, constraints, etc. Capricorn is always the old, it's the status quo, it's the way things have been in terms of political, social structures, etc. And it's top down, it has a vertical structure. It's linked also to corporations, big institutions, any of those kind of big bodies, as it were, that have power over us. So it tends to promote inequality in life. What we're actually going to be moving into next year is much more Aquarian energy, which is much more horizontally structured society. And that's going to take obviously a little bit of time, but that's going to be the shift from top down to a much greater system of collaboration and community and sharing and people coming together, much greater sense of global humanity. But we'll get on to that as the weeks and months go by. So this has been the clash. Now, what really has accelerated that clash further is that all of the planets now, apart from Uranus, are moving direct. Uranus moves direct in mid-January. So whenever that happens, that creates a feeling of additional momentum. We want to move forwards, but we're hitting this wall. Black Moon Lilith is also conjunct Uranus at 6 and 7 degrees of Taurus respectively. They don't like to respect rules. They're quite revolutionary, feisty energy. So we've got a lot of things that are accelerating this push from the ground up, if you like, from the streets up, from the common man, if you like, in this clash with governmental authority. However, in the very short term, that governmental authority may increase even further or be attempted to be increased even further through the middle of December, because Saturn from the 7th to the 17th is at what is known as the anaretic degree, 29 degrees of Capricorn. So any 29th degree of a sign is known as the anaretic degree. And if a planet comes to sit there, it tends to emphasize the shadow side of that sign. That's particularly strong because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So what does that mean? It means potentially more strictures, more constraints, more controls, or discussions about those increased controls, let's say. So we've got this build, this crescendo, this peak of energy happening, which I've talked about for months, really coming to a head in mid-December. Okay, and then there's going to be a shift in this second half. So let's talk about this total solar eclipse. It's happening, as I say, on the 14th of December. It's happening at 23 degrees and 8 minutes of Sagittarius. It's exact at 8:16 a.m. Pacific and 4:16 p.m. UK time. So 23 degrees and 8 minutes of Sagittarius. See where that falls in your chart. This solar eclipses are really super big new moons, so it's always the perfect time to set a new intention, to plant a seed for what you want to manifest going forwards in 2021. If you don't know where this falls in your chart, you can download a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and then you can check this link above. That will take you to my store. You can buy a 2-part video series, and that will explain to you the meaning of this for you and the meaning of every update I ever do. It's really helpful. But essentially, if you have any planets or angles between sort of 20 to 26 degrees of the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, then you will feel this eclipse very strongly. It's the only total solar eclipse that we have in 2020. And particularly if this is aspecting, particularly if it's conjunct actually your sun, your ascendant, or your midheaven, you can be thrown into prominence. There can be success here, quite sudden success. I see solar eclipses as much more positive than lunar eclipses, because lunar eclipses are cycles of closure or ending, and generally solar eclipses are bringing in some new beginnings. More of that in a moment. So now this total solar eclipse, the totality is going to last for 3.5 hours. Some astrologers believe that the number of hours equates to the number of years that the intensity and the change, quite fundamental change very often, will happen in the geographies where the path of totality falls. So in this case, the path of totality is falling across Chile and Argentina, across the southern tip of South America and Southwest Africa. Those are the areas. And so we should just observe those over the coming years. And for instance, if we go back to the very big total solar eclipse in August 2017, that fell right across the US. That was at 28 degrees of Leo, fell right across the US. Have there been big changes in the US since August 2017? You betcha. Isn't it interesting that that total solar eclipse falls or fell exactly on President Trump's ascendant? That's very interesting. So this is a big new beginning, and eclipses always are a kind of quantum jump. They're never gradual, they're never linear, they're always a bit of a surprise, a bit of a wild card. So that can be very exciting, and there's a feeling of acceleration, particularly with total solar eclipses. So it's going to feel very exciting. So as I say, see where that falls in your chart and how you think it could best manifest for you. Think the highest and best for that. Now, Sagittarius, by the way, the other interesting thing I'd like to say is that when Uranus was discovered, on the 13th of March 1781, it was discovered at 24 degrees of Gemini. That is just literally 1 degree off, an exact opposition to this total solar eclipse. So these discovery points kind of echo down through the ages. So I feel that we will be picking up on that Uranian energy as well as we move in to this total solar eclipse. And in fact, the archetype of Uranus and of Sagittarius, they actually have some similarities. They're both very much future-oriented. They're both about freedom. They're very expansive. They don't want to be kind of hemmed in any way. Uranus, as you know, is particularly connected to the galactic. Uranus can be very strong as we move through the next few years with this shift into Aquarian energy. So it's very much about the new. So here we have a pivot point of the old and the new, because the total solar eclipse at 23 of Sagittarius is just 4 degrees from the South Node. The South Node is our collective past, what we've already lived, so that's the old. It's also 4 degrees away from the galactic centre. The galactic centre, obviously the centre of our galaxy, which pours out very powerful cosmic and galactic energy from which we create. We create from ether into matter, into experience. So of course, it represents the new, the unlived, the unformed, if you like. So this total solar eclipse is literally halfway, if you like, between the old and the new. And that's emphasised by the shift away also from the Capricorn energy into something very different as we move into this second half of December and ongoing. The other things that Sagittarius is very connected to are the law, justice and the truth. Law, justice and the truth. And I think it's going to be very interesting in mid-December. In several countries we have very important legal challenges and developments happening. So it will be very interesting to see what unfolds at this time. So we continue through this total solar eclipse with this clash between the Aries planets and the Capricorn planets. This is a time, I think, of kind of accelerated unraveling. This is a kind of break point, if you like, in the energy from this build to intensity. There's going to be a kind of break point and a further break point, very much so on the 21st of December with a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that I'll talk about next time. Yes, we still have this long-term Neptune squaring the nodal axis. That becomes exact in January, which suggests through all of this kind of unraveling of the old, there will be a lot of confusion out there. So I would very, very much encourage you to firstly ground as often as you can, be in nature, hug a tree, play with a pet, bare feet on the grass if weather permits for you. Go inwards, don't go outwards to the scattering of all the news and the drama. Turn inwards, create coherence, meditation, breath work, breathing in and out through your heart. Anything you can do to create coherence, those will be your kind of bedrocks of center going forwards, grounding and inward coherence. They will be your absolute bedrocks as we move into this period. Something else I'd like to talk about here, I'd like to really credit Kelly Hunter, the wonderful American astrologer. I talked about her in a previous video some months ago. I did a video called New Planetary Archetypes that you can find on my YouTube channel. And she has done the work and the research on these, so I'm just really quoting her work, so very much crediting her. What is interesting at this total solar eclipse is that we have, just to take a step back, there are many orbiting bodies in an area of space known as the Kuiper belt. Kuiper. It's a kind of rocky belt way out in space, beyond really the realms of Neptune and Pluto. And over the last 15-20 years, some new orbiting bodies, some of them have been named dwarf planets, others just kind of KBOs, they're called, Kuiper belt objects, that are being discovered with some very interesting archetypes. Now, one I'm going to talk about here, which I haven't mentioned before, is called Varda. Varda at this total solar eclipse is at 23 degrees 10 minutes of Sagittarius, so 2 minutes away from exactitude to this total solar eclipse. So it's really can be considered exact. Now, in myth, Varda was the Star Lady. In myth, she was the being, the lady who placed our sun, our moon, and our stars in the sky to create our heavens. And what I think is fascinating with this conjunction to this big leap, total solar eclipse, this big new beginning, is, I'm getting really goosebumpy now, is she heralding a whole evolution in our understanding of the heavens and cosmology. Because to me, if we are going through an evolutionary leap in consciousness, which indeed we are, that has to be paralleled or even led by an evolutionary leap in astrology. And that's why I'm starting to get very interested in these kind of far out planets, because the myths create the archetype, which is what I use. The archetypes of the planets are what I use as my bread and butter every single day in client sessions. I mean, that's what astrology is. So that's very interesting. So is she creating a higher level of cosmology, a higher level of the heavens for us? And it's magical energy. The other Kuiper belt object, which I've mentioned in the earlier video, is Salacia. Beautiful energy, very feminine. Again, Salacia in myth was the wife of Neptune. This is mermaid energy. She's fluid, she's malleable, she's shape-shifting. She causes the sun to glitter and sparkle on the seas, this kind of iridescent reflective energy. To me, she really symbolizes this incredible level of photonic light, gamma wave light, crystalline diamond light, which some people, sensitive people, can actually see, which is pouring onto our Earth and upgrading our DNA. Now, science have said for many years that we just have kind of junk DNA. They don't know what it does. It just seems to be inert and dead. Now those strands of DNA are starting to become reactivated as we move into this period of birthing a new consciousness. And that's really how I see this. We're birthing a new consciousness. Many of these KBOs, these dwarf planets I'm going to be talking about in ongoing months, are very quantum in their understanding of reality, and they see reality as extremely malleable, which in quantum physics it is indeed, because tangibility, density is just an illusion, be it a persistent one, as Einstein said. We are moving into a much more fluid age where we truly come to understand that we live from the inside out, not the outside in. I was writing about this in my first book 8 years ago, but generally people aren't so aware of it. But we're all going to become much more conscious of that how we can manifest, how we can shift our frequency to actually very quickly change our reality on the outside. We're moving into this kind of an age. So I see this total solar eclipse as a real pivot point, as I say, between the old and the new, which has not yet lived. It's unimaginable. It's really quite exciting what we're moving into. And remember, this will be a big period of awakening, the second half of December. Remember, Aries, the female awakening, squared to Pluto, spiritual transformation. This is what we're moving into. And this period is really it isn't just the astrology, which is huge, as I'll talk about next time. It's even bigger when I get to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. We're going to be talking about some very big parts of astrology there. But it is a whole convergence of modalities happening at the same time. We have our Earth, Gaia, living organic being, and we know that she is upgrading. We know that she's evolving. The energy lines of the Earth are much more activated, strengthening, widening. The magnetic core is shifting. The North Pole is moving at such a pace that they're having to update GPS systems more frequently to make sure that planes land in the airports and not in a field somewhere a few miles off. The magnetics of the Earth are shifting very rapidly, and that's creating a real kind of destabilization, if you like, in the energy fields. We're getting more solar flares. As I'm filming this on the 25th of November, we've had some really enormous solar flares that have been hitting the southern hemisphere. We will have many more of these to come. They're big energetic shifts. We have, as I say, this high photonic gamma wave crystalline light pouring onto the Earth. So as human beings sandwiched between the upgrade of the Earth and this sort of downward causation of this high frequency light, almost we don't stand a chance. We have to upgrade, and everyone will be upgraded. Everyone's consciousness, whether they know it or not, will be upgraded, particularly around the time of the 21st of December. This period in time is linked to ancient prophecy. It's linked to a divine plan. It's linked, of course, massively to the astrology. So we have a convergence of many modalities all saying the same thing at the moment. So this period of time, I believe, is not only so far the biggest opportunity in our lifetime and possibly many lifetimes for us to upgrade, jump, elevate our consciousness. There will be more to come. I think there will be more to come over the coming years. We will be moving, I believe, through this intense period of shift of energy from the old to the new, through an accelerated period of unraveling of the old as we go through January and February. Sorry to say that, but we're heading in the right direction. An accelerated unraveling. So expect things to be chaotic, expect things to be destabilized. I think things will get better in March. The astrology kind of eases off from squares to trines, and I think that will get a lot easier. The deconstruction of the old order will continue all the way through, I believe, until 2023, 2024. It won't be such an intense crescendo of energy as we're going through right now, as we're starting to kind of just emerge from the birth canal in late December. But there will be waves of deconstruction. By the time Pluto moves fully into Aquarius in 2024, we really will be birthed to being galactic citizens again, perhaps. So that's our trajectory. Jupiter, Saturn move into Aquarius just after the middle of December, talk about that next time, and then Pluto 23, 24. So that's where we're headed. So as we move in from this total solar eclipse, incredibly powerful period, really try and take time out to meditate, stay in your center, don't be caught up in the hubbub. We can't do much Christmas shopping anyway because many of us are still in lockdown, so that might help the kind of hyper nature of a normal entering Christmas period for those of us who have it. But I believe that as we enter this 21st of December, with the shift I'll be talking about next time, the frequency for each of us, our individual frequencies, will be magnified. So if we are feeling fear, anger, hate, confusion, boom, they're going to be magnified big time. If we are feeling joy, peace, love, happiness, gratitude, appreciation, they are going to be magnified big time. So this is our homework. This isn't even a 3-week period, really, that we're moving into. It's a very concentrated window of opportunity. So don't just nap and cruise on Netflix. This is our homework, because the better we can get ourselves to a higher takeoff point, let's say, on the 21st of December, the better it will be for us as individuals and for the collective, because our frequency always feeds back to the collective. Because that, imagine them as a series of airports, really. And wherever we're at in our frequency, we are self-selecting our takeoff point, our airport. So make sure that you can do everything you can to get yourself into a coherent, positive frequency for that takeoff, to get to your best airport, let's say. And that is no judgment on people who may not be watching this kind of video, interested in this. We are all on our different soul's journey, and that's fine. But what we do have is free will. We have latitude in how we use our time and our energy. And this next 3 to 4 weeks is crucial for us to really get the best takeoff, because I believe that takeoff for each of us will determine our long-term trajectory for quite some time. There will be other leaps as we go on through the next few years. Of course there will, and I'll be talking about those. But this is a biggie. This from the middle of the month to the end of December is really, really huge. So I've crammed a lot into this video. There's so much more to say in the next one. I'd have been really talking for hours. I hope that's been helpful for you. If you'd like more information about my books, my videos, teaching videos, my very long monthly newsletter where I can put a lot more detail into it than what I can share in the videos, please check out my website, pamgregory.com, or thenextstep.uk.com. Will get you to the same place, and really see this as the birth of a new consciousness. It's very exciting. It's a quantum leap. It's a step change into a very exciting and very different world that will start to manifest, I believe, really quickly. No, we won't all be living in paradise on the 22nd of December. Some people are already living in bliss in 5D. Yes, they are. Some people, as we go through the 21st, may not feel it. They may not even be aware of it. But gradually, over the coming months, we will be moving to a finer consciousness, a finer energy, and we will gradually be starting to develop abilities that now we would call superhuman. Telepathy, healing, many other, finer perception. It's going to be a big shift as more of our DNA comes online. So very exciting. Can't wait to tell you more. I'll be uploading, hopefully filming and uploading the next Jupiter-Saturn video in the next few days when I get an opportunity. But in the meantime, I really hope that this has been helpful for you. And remember, we're heading into those airports for our significant takeoff. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.